I'm going to start talking a little bit about color. Does that make sense? So we're going to start off with a very simple, I use comic book to do this, comic book coloring to do this. Yeah, but I also like, let's see here. So I'm going to give you these, and you could find your own. I don't care. And I just picked these because these are actually they're pretty big, which is helpful. These now I gave you this one too. This is Dana Gibson, so it's not a comic book thing. If you want to get out of that, because I want to give you an option. Okay, Dana Gibson, by the way, if you don't know this person, you should. This one, that's a color version. This one, much more complex. Much more complex. I don't know why that's in there. Actually, I do, but it's not relevant right now. So I'm going to start here with this. Now, the reason we're starting with this, and I'll kind of talk about this after I do this little quick demo, okay, is when you see comic book work, okay, it's so well inked and designed. These inkers are monsters at this, okay? That like, and I did a demo on this at Disney, actually. I think I have it. And this is a different thing. It's watercolor, but it's the same idea, okay? So if I do a watercolor, this is just a sketch. If I do a watercolor sketch, I'm relying on the color, correct? I mean, relying on the shape, yeah? And I did a quick pen and ink drawing while I was talking over there. And then I go, I'm just going to throw color all over this thing. It's a little Parisian street scene, right? I go, I'm just going to throw color all over this. And I literally just grabbed this and threw it all over it. And I go, still works. You know what I mean? I go, it still works. You know why? Because the drawing is holding this all together, right? Which is something I think about all the time when students are having a hard time breaking from line into paint. They'll keep trying to rely on line. I go, get rid of the damn line, okay? You got to get rid of that damn line. Otherwise, you're never going to get out of a colored drawing, okay? Nothing wrong with that, but I think you need to know both. So on this kind of thing, here's what we're going to do. We're going to unlock this layer, the background layer. we're going to make a sandwich here, okay? So I'm going to go, let's get a regular brush too. And you see I always go back to the same brush. And I'm going to call this drawing, or I'm going to call this ink drawing. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to go above. And then I'm going to make another layer and go color. And then I'm going to lock this one off again. So I'm going to go, there it is. And I'm going to lock it. Why? I never want to touch that drawing. Does that make sense? So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go, I'm going to unlock it for a second and go multiply. Now, what that's going to do, I'm going to lock it again. What that's going to do is it makes the white invisible. Okay. So now I'm going to go in here and go, okay, let's get a base color here. And again, I don't like the way they've broken this up. And I also got to make sure, let's see here. Yeah. Okay, so if you have this problem, look at, I picked a color, it's going gray. You see that? By the way, I need to go to a regular brush. There. It's going gray. You see that? That's because this is on grayscale. So if I go up here to image mode, I'm going to go back to RGB color. And I'm going to say don't merge. And there it is. Okay. Now, Now I'm going to go in here and just go. And you can see it doesn't pick up any of the black, or it doesn't pick up any of the white. Does that make sense? Yeah? So it just makes the white invisible. We're underneath it. You got to be underneath it, okay? And I'm just going to do a typical warm, cool thing here. I'm going to give it a... Oh, God, I'm so tired of this. I'm going to call Wacom about this. Or maybe I just need to do a search on it, find out why it's doing this. Or maybe it needs to be updated or something. Okay, hopefully that's good. I'm going to cover this up. I'll just take it not that far. Now I'm going to show you some other stuff on this real quick. So I'm going to go a little darker. I think I wanted a little more, yeah, maybe a little more in there. And I'm going to, just for the hell of it, I'm going to give it a little bit of a broken painterly edge. Okay. So we're going to do just a simple lighting thing here. So let's get some warm light going in here. It's going to probably be too much, but we'll see. Actually, I'm going to go a little more red because he is red, I think, right? He is red, right?
Yes.
So I'll start maybe with just sort of on this side. And I'm probably going to have to kill that a little bit. That's okay. This down here is going to, I'm actually going to change some of this stuff down here, but it's fine. I can paint right over it. So I'm basically just going to light, say the light's coming from up here and he's getting lit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What happened?
What layer are you doing this on?
Underneath.
Oh, so both the dark kind of purple and the red are on the same layer.
All the colors on this layer right here.
Okay.
Now that'll change up. I don't know what just happened there. Hang on. Oh, there it goes. And that's weird. And I'm going to do this very quickly and crudely, but to be honest with you, it's fine. I'm going to say this is probably a warm light anyway. That way I have an excuse to sort of put it everywhere. I'm going to go in with a little more. I want that more saturated. I don't know if that's going to work, but let's try it. Because I'm going to build that a little bit. I'm going to say there's some kind of cool light down there. And like over here, I don't even have to worry about it because the black, it's only picking up wherever there's no black, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then I like to go back and forth with the cools and the warms, just sort of get them a little bit intermingled here. So there's somewhat of a transition in here. I could even start to go maybe start to create a little core to break both sides. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oops. Then I'm going to go, and I'm jumping ahead. I would build up a lot more here. I'm going to try doing what we talked about yesterday. Come on. Needs more light value in it. Still want to get a little more blue or purple in there. Now, am I saying this is bottom lit? Maybe there's a light coming from down here. I don't know. Maybe actually, let's do a different thing. I'm going, okay, so what starts to happen here usually is I go, there's a cool light here. Now I could put this light on a different layer just in case I really want to be able to control it, but let's try this. I'm going to make a new layer. Go here.
Mike, it's Issei. Were you using a mixing brush for this whole?
I'm just using a regular brush. Because I'm not really concerned with edges as much right now at this point because again, the drawing's holding it all together. You know what I mean? And let's go. I'm going to keep this fairly monochromatic. And I'm just going to do this very quickly. Just going to create a quick moon here. Why am I creating a moon?
Because it's Hellboy and it's nighttime and you need a cool light.
Exactly. And I'm going to change something on here. So let's just say that's enough. And I'd probably dick around with this a little more, obviously. And then I'm going to go. Where are you leaving?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Restaurant.
Okay. You guys get everything done? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm going to put a layer mask on this.
What?
I'm talking here.
Fine.
And go black to white. Why it does this sometimes? Oh, it's on lighten. Yeah, that's better. There. And let's see, it's 100%. Okay. You know, just get it to fade a little bit there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm going to lighten it up a little. It's a little too blending in. There, that looks not too bad right there. Okay, so now I got moonlight, right? And I might, you know, I could, moonlight, I want it cool, so I'm going to keep it cool. But, you know, a moon can go warmer. You know, if you take it that way, like that feels very moon-like, okay? More warm, but I'm going to keep it cool. But I think I'm going to, yeah, it's fine. I could dick around with this forever, okay? And then I'm going to go, let's see if I can just grab this. Yeah. And I'm going to start to get some lit areas. Hang on, something's going on here, bro. That's weird. Never had that happen before. My brush is like, oh, that's what it is. Sorry. It was on the wrong layer. But I can get a little of that. Actually, I'm going to take this now. Because I'm going to, I mean, normally I would really build this for, I'm going to put this on a different layer. because I might want to play around with it. Does that make sense? And I'm going to soften some of these edges. And then I got it on a different layer because I'm probably going to want to pull it back. But for now, it's fine. Then I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to go also put something down here, maybe. So let's go, because I want to have another light source. So I'm going to go back to here. In this kind of thing, you can sort of create your light source how you want. I mean, you sort of set it up, but I can create my own. And I'm going to go in here, back here. And again, once I get this going, I can just resample my colors wherever I want. More over here. And then a little more. That's probably okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so now I've got myself a little flame stuff going on. So where he leaves me open area, whoever did this, I can sort of plan out my lighting if I want. So now I've got an excuse to go really getting lit over on this side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then the inked portions are like kind of like the core shadow.
They're just, yeah, they're creating
Yeah.
all that. I don't have to do any of that. That's the point with this, is it's just like, I don't know. There's a part of me that when people are doing this stuff, I go, you know, that's pretty damn easy comic book coloring. I'm gonna get some more of this. Now, what I'm gonna want to do in here is I'm gonna probably want to vary a few things. Now, I could come in here and make take one of my brushes and go into the I'm going to do a demo a little bit, or just talk about it a little bit next week. But you know where that has the color dynamics and all that in our brush settings where we can play with it? Yeah.
Yes.
I might go in there and really dial in the shape or the color dynamics. And what will happen is when I throw down a color, it'll vary it automatically, right? So I don't have to do it, think about it, okay? Because if I'm coming in here, then I might go, well, I want to get another cool in here. Let's see what this is. I got to back on my color layer. I don't like that. Let's try a different one. Let's try this again, but I want to lighten it up a little. It's still too light. Come on. So shape dynamics will do, or color dynamics would do some of this for me. What I'm kind of doing here is I'm sort of, even though I don't really need it, I'm kind of thinking about that transition, that maybe there's some sort of light source over here. And then I'm going to start to go, as it gets more towards the light, I'm probably going to grab some of this and start under his chin a little bit. Because now he's got a bottom light source. So really, I mean, he's got his light source coming up here and I'm changing a little bit, but that's fine. No, I mean, if this was a real job, I'd have to really justify that. I'd have to, and we'll do it in a second. I could probably put a secondary light source up here. But I just love creating my own light sources. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then what I'm going to do, you know, what I do here also is I'd come in here and get some, I'd start to get some desaturated color in here more, and vary it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go, let's try, actually, let's try, I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe a little. I'm going to dial it down here a little more. There's so much warmth in this environment. Okay, so what I always say about gold is gold usually will do we'll do a little bit of it'll either go on the darker end, it'll go in its base color or whatever, it'll go a little bit burnt sienna, or sometimes it'll go a little bit green, like ochre green. Does that make sense? And then I build up on top of that. Okay, it just kind of depends on the gold probably. Like this watch is interesting because it's like, I don't know how they did it, but it's silver and black, right? But like I've never seen a watch like this. Like if I'm out in the thing at night, it gets all these like sort of gold overtones. It's really interesting, which I haven't really seen. And it's not silver gold or whatever that is. It's not that. Okay, so I'm going to start to build this because he's got all this stuff down here. And then I'm going to come up here and maybe see if I can find a nice, maybe it's this. And I'm going to, that's a little too light to go too quick. So I want to build this up. I want it more yellow, like a little yellow ochre, really. Not too bad. And that wouldn't get it. And I'm just going to build this up a little bit. This would probably be getting more of this light.
I didn't get that.
Yeah. So this would probably be getting a little more of this light over here. It's too much. So I'd have to knock that down. And if you notice, a lot of times I'll use my smudge brush to knock it down also, okay? Okay, so then I'm going to come in here and go one more pass on here. So I'm going to grab my yellow again, my kind of ochre yellow, and then I'm going to push it more into the yellow range. And let some of this, and by the way, some of this would also be getting affected by some of this. I might do a little of that. So I'm just barely touching it. So I'm just tinting it a little bit. You see what I mean? Okay. So I'm getting some shapes in there. Then I'm probably going to come over here. This is a very matte surface, but he's still going to get, it's going to get lit. This is a very lit environment. And this person did all the texture. I don't do shit in this, to be honest. And I'm going to let some of this stuff intermingle because it just starts to get some nice things going on. Maybe just a hint. I don't want to start telling the viewer that this is sort of a reflective surface. These are reflective. So the other thing I can do is I can go in here to this. Bing, give it some glints. These would definitely get little glints. You know, even here. This, I'd have to work out this little part right here.
So Mike, it's easy. So this would be like thrown light, not direct light, like you said, from the fire, but just like from the larger atmosphere.
It's both.
That's reflecting.
I mean,
Okay.
it's prime right now. I've got the primary light source right there, like right there. But what I'd probably do here, because he's actually lighting it, the original person who did this, is actually lighting it from here. Yeah, because all the light's hitting here. So what I'd also have to do, and by the way, I like to mingle. These colors kind of like each other, these cools and these warms, because that's why I kind of went to sort of a purpley thing, because there's a little bit of warmth in purple. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So they like each other a little bit. Okay. Okay. So maybe I'm going to go, I don't know how I do this. Maybe there's some, that's way too big. You know, I could have some kind of, like, the thing with this kind of illustration, or what do you want to call it, is it's all fantastic. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
you have quite a bit of leeway with things like this. And then maybe this is, I don't want to make it a cool light. I want to make it sort of a warm light. But it's going to really get pushed back. And this, I'd probably figure out a different solution for this, but I don't like, I want foreground of transparent, not, and again, I could come up here. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do is see if I can find a good overlay. Well, that's not too bad. Because I'm going to really reduce this. Or, you know, if it's hell, maybe there's something streaming in from above. So it could be all sorts of different things. But what I need to do is give him an excuse to have some light hitting him here. Does that make sense? Because the original illustrator didn't.
Yeah, now it makes more
bottom
sense.
line, right? So I'm going to
Yes.
go here, filter, blur, just blur it a tiny bit. I mean, in this one, I might blur the hell out of it just because, again, it's a little more fantastic kind of thing. And then I'm just going to come in here. And I'm going to do a couple things here. So I would probably blur that even more. Let's see if we can do it like we did the last time. Anybody know why the hell Zoom always throws all the information over to the side you don't want it? Okay, so let's go here. Blur, dodge and blur. So I'm going to blur this down here a little more and see if I can get away with it. And then, actually, I can just do it this way. Too much. Because why? This is going to be a super smoky environment, right? Yeah?
Yeah, Mike, would you like dirty up the light itself and add particles to it or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially, well, the first thing I do in this is probably try and go. Is I get some smoke going in there, right?
So just kind of like how we did the space thing.
Yeah.
Is it the same kind of idea? Yeah. Okay.
And then again, I might try and overlay and see if I can get something to pop it a little more. It's not too bad. Not too bad. And I'd have to get it still a little more smoky. I'd have to come in and erase some of it out and sort of get a pattern going a little bit. I don't want it everywhere the same strength. you know, and now I don't know where the point source of this light is because it's a fantastic environment. So I don't know if I'd put the dusty stuff in it because the point source this could be hell. There's a big, 8,000 foot high ceiling to the cave, and there's an opening in the cave to the other world, and there's light coming in and all that bullshit. Does that make sense? Okay. And basically what I'd start doing in here now is I'd come in here and I'd vary these blues over here. I'd get some more hyper, probably a little bit of hyper. Another thing I do is this. So I'm gonna go back to my flame. I'd probably come in here and dick around with my flame quite a bit.
I was just curious if you're using the light to also kind of push to create space and push the figure forward away from the black cauldrony looking thing.
Yeah, I'm always doing all those things. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I'm always thinking about basic design, basic, edges, hard and soft, all that stuff we've been talking about. I'm always talking about. And then what I'd probably do in here is there might be flame all over that place. I'd have to go back in and this is a good area right here where you can see I've gotten very soft now, just like we were talking about with that portrait. And it's like, well, I'd probably have to come back in here and sort of restructure a little bit. Okay, add a little more structure back to it so it's not all just soft edge. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that there's another, so now I usually go to my above layer here and I grab some of this, and then I'm also going, can I darken this a little bit? I don't know. Yeah, I think it's a little better darker. And then I'm going to go over this and say, maybe there's some flame, it's all around him or whatever. I'd go back in here and I'd restructure that flame a little more. And then I'm going to go put my embers coming over here. Some really hot ones. And I'm going to pass some of them in front of him because he'd be standing in front of this flamey stuff. A lot of times I come back in here with an eraser and I reshape these. It's not a good eraser, but those are too much the same size. Come back in here with some more hot ones and have these things trailing off. These could come up into here maybe. And I get this kind of flame idea scattered around everywhere. Oops. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really simple, okay? Because the drawing is so damn good, right? Now, again, I don't care which, and again, you can go find your own ink drawing. I don't care, okay? These are just really well done. And like this here is too strong right here. I like it, but I feel like it's got to be knocked back a little. Now I can get a little crazy with this, and I'd dance in here and I'd start really building it up. I've got to be careful when I've got a light source here that, when it's bouncing onto something, it's not as intense as the original light source because it's going to fall off. And then that hand is like stone or something. So it's a light absorbent surface, more or less, right? It's going to bounce some light, but it's not glass and it's not chrome. Okay. If it's glass, chrome, something very highly specular, then I can, push that a little harder. But when I'm showing the viewers light and things like that, I got to make sure that how that light falls on a surface. Because here's another thing that you see all the time. People will go in here and they'll go, let's go. They don't think about building this up, okay? They go like everywhere. Is this kind of thing. And they just start putting highlights all over the place, okay, with no thought to build to the highlight. Does that make sense? You got to build to the highlight, okay? So putting down a basic red here, now I can start dancing other things in here. Like I could even come in here and probably grab some of, and again, I could use my mixer brush here, but I don't really need to for this. And I could probably grab some of this purple. You know, and I can start to put some subtle pools in here, you know, dancing this over this a little bit and starting to intermingle some of these things. What is going on? Oh my gosh. That's old. Okay, there it is. It just was over something. And I can start to intermingle some of this and go back and forth and start to get some nice complex shapes going on, okay? And I'm going to really think about, you know, this is rolling down or rolling under, you know, and again, I put a light source here, so it kind of does weird stuff here, but I could come in here and go, well, I got to get, you know, this is a form rolling under. So I could get some of that here, and I'm above the line layer, which I shouldn't do. Okay. Then, you know, and I come in here and start to play around with it. He's already showed you so much of this stuff. It's nice. I don't have to do that much work. You know, and I'm going to come in here, and now I'm starting to dance in here much more really light-handed here. And I'm going to start to intermingle things so they start to move in and out of warmth and cool. Does that make sense? You know, and then I want to get a few things in front of them, you know. I might even come, I wouldn't do it on this one. I mean, something like this, I wouldn't dick around with it too much. I'd follow what's there. Even here, let's see if I can do this. Ooh, what happened? Let's see if this works. I need it on another layer. Now, I'm going to put a layer mask on this. What I'm really after, so I'm going to reduce the opacity a bit. But actually what I'm really after here is that little smokiness back here where it's going from that, you know, that glow up into the cool, but there's an overlap there where the purple gets a little deeper. That's actually what I'm after. But then when I do this, I go, I actually kind of like this big blast of red. I don't want all of that. So I'm just putting a layer mask on it and I'm just painting some of it out, but letting the cool start to come through there. So it's getting a nice kind of, and I don't want any of it over here, really. I want that back. All this. I'm gonna put this back up to 100 or at least close. So I can get these back. Gonna knock a lot of this back, but some of it I'm gonna leave because it's just it's intense and I kind of like that. And I have to do this guy. Does that make sense? And I could just erase all of it out except for the background, but I actually kind of like it. And again, that starts to speak to that happy accent kind of thing. Now I'm going to push those cools back into here again. That's kind of nice, actually. So now the colors are really intermingling, okay? And I can go on and on and on, okay? We do all kinds of things here. Again, you know, let's try this. Oh, you know, I have to dial in that flame a little more. What was I just going to do? Oh, yeah. Maybe this. Oh, okay. I'm going to do this again. I never do this. Actually, I can just do it like this. I'll just go here. probably won't, I have to probably unlock it. And again, I'm just going to find out where this lands. So it's hard to see it then. But let's just try that. And go cancel, go up here. Go filter, render, lens flare. Actually, I feel like it should be up there. So I could probably use it as a light source, or I could put it down here. What I was wanted to get is like the flare coming into here, but it's getting a little lost. That's all done. Yeah, it's throwing it down. So maybe more something like that, maybe move it out here. That gives it some kind of light source. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay. Monday. Yeah. Now, I want to talk about something else real quick. I want to show you. Now, there's a reason why sometimes this will make sense. Okay. And also, I just want to show you how to take it. So I'm just going to take a really bad shot of a. I just took it on my camera phone deliberately, so it wouldn't be a great image. Okay, so this is just a doodle of somebody out of my sketchbook, okay? Now, sometimes you're gonna have to do this, obviously. And it drives me crazy when I get bad presentation, okay? So what a lot of people do is they're gonna do a layout. Let's say this is a character sketch, okay? And they'll go, here's my layout. Here's my presentation layout. Here's my character sketch. And they put it in there like that, okay? That kind of stuff pisses me off, especially in the age of Photoshop, okay? It's just like, why are you, don't give me presentation like that, okay? And my answer to that always when people do that is I go, I'm not talking about this because you don't care about it. So I don't care about it, okay? So you can do here, because I'm going to show you two things real quick here. You can go, what I usually do, if I'm going to have to do something like this, is I'm going to get rid of everything I don't need around him so Photoshop doesn't have to think about all that other stuff. Does that make sense? Oops. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. If I leave all this stuff up here, it's calculating all that also. And then I'm going to go. The other reason, just, you could just do the white overlay thing. It's really useful to be able to take sketches out of your sketchbook and you go, I kind of like that. I'm going to take it in and paint it and get that mileage going without having to do a drawing, without having to think about it. Just go boom and just do something with it. Okay. And you could just do that with your white overlay, basically, which is kind of what I want to do here. So then I'm going to go make sure that this is unlocked. Go XV. Okay. I don't need this. Now I'm going to put another white layer on it. If I'm going to lay it out on white. There it is. And then I'm going to go, because I don't need the color. This color is getting affected by the light I took it in, right? So I can either go here. A lot of times I just do this. I go to grayscale. Or you could just go to desaturate and desaturate the hell out of it. But I like this because there's literally not going to be any color information in it, period. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go Command L for our levels. And right here is the white balance tool. So I'm going to pick that and I'm going to go and say, I want this to be white. Oops, I picked the wrong tool. It's this one. White balance right there. And boom. And then I can come back in here and dial him back in. And now I got a nice presentation drawn. that make sense?
Yeah, that blows my mind. Or not blows my mind, but it's very helpful for cleaning up sketches.
That was cool.
And by the way, I'll put it up. I have a tutorial on this. It's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay. That way you can refer back to it. I do it for my Saturday class because their last presentation has to be out of their sketchbooks. I go take your best stuff. That way you don't have to redraw anything. And then, do this with it and give me a nice presentation. Now, the other thing is I can go now under here. Let's put this on multiply, go back up to image mode, drop it back down to RGB color, and don't merge. I don't know why it always asks you that. And go, okay. I don't need this anymore. And go, this is now, I'm going to start painting this guy. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. Make sense?
Yeah.
It's good exercises. Okay. And the reason I mention this is that there's a thing that everybody does. And I probably mentioned this. When you're trying to do miles, and let's say color and things like this that I'm doing right now, okay? Oh, there's white in there. I don't know why there's white in there. That's stupid. Shouldn't be any white on there. So let's fill this again. Let's make a new layer because I want this on a transparent layer. What the hell happened? When you're trying to do miles, one of the things you can really rely on, and again, I know I say sketchbook all the time, is your sketchbook, but then taking things out of your sketchbook, maybe have 5 or 6 of them, because I just go out and doodle people like this all the time. And a lot of times I start really stylizing them and kind of turning them into little characters and things. What happens with people, I think, when they're learning, or just in general, is they overthink everything to death. So they never really get to miles. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because they're overthinking everything to death. Okay. And it's like, so I think things like this are very helpful because you can just boom, 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 be working instead of doing that thing. And avoid this, you guys, because everybody does it. I'm going to practice my painting. Okay, cool. Okay. 2 weeks later. Hey, what are you doing with the painting? I figured out I want to do a post-apocalyptic universe. And now I got to do a perspective drawing. And now I got to do, okay, 3 weeks later. Hey, are you doing now I'm doing the perspective drawing. I'm figuring it all out. And it's like, you're never going to get good doing that. Okay. That's fine. Do some very thought out things. That's great. But you got to do a lot of miles. And you can pull stuff out of your sketchbook or whatever. Okay. And just take them in and start working on them. Yeah. Okay. So all we're doing here is we're putting the original layer on multiply and then going underneath it. And then I'm going to show you guys a thing later. Hopefully I can do a quick video of it. But what I'll talk about that later, actually, and I could come on here and start doing other things, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That all makes sense, right? So that's just your white balance. And by the way, sometimes when you use that white tool, it'll blow it out too much. So I might go to another area and go, okay, I'm going to say this is the white area and get it someplace. Then I can dial it a little bit back in. And then I might have to go out and take out a little bit of darkness or something, but it just gets me that much further. Okay. Or that faster. Right now, let's say that we're taking this and I'm going to take this very simple drawing. I can do it with my complex drawings. And I'm going to go Command All, select everything, C. I'm just going to put a new layer here now. This is probably in a weird format, by the way. Yeah, index color. I'm going to go to RGB color. Hopefully that doesn't screw me up. And let's go to here, make a new layer, Command V, paste it in. I want to invert it, Command I, deselect it, then come up here, turn that off. Fill this with white, go back up here, select, load selection, alpha 1, and then I'm going to go command fill in there. So it's got my color, right? So if I go, I want to go red. And now if I turn that off, I've got a drawing just floating on a layer, okay? Now, there's a bunch of reasons why this is helpful, okay? For doing a lot of stuff, I don't need to do this, but like now, here's why this is interesting. One of the reasons why this is interesting. So let's go back here. Let's go Command Z. And I'm just gonna, I should be able to do it with white or black, I mean, and go Command Fill. So now we're back to the Mickey, okay? And he's on his own thing. I'm going to put a color layer here underneath him. And then here, let's look at this. This is what I was talking about. This style of rendering, if you notice, you see it on cereal boxes. Go to the cereal aisles, all done like this, okay? What it is it's still relying on line, but what they do here to soften it is they obviously airbrushed everything, but the line, look at it right here. The line takes on a darker value of the color around it, okay? The red pants, see that right there, that dark red? Yeah? So what I can do here is I can grab this red. And again, I'm going to do this very quickly. I'm underneath the line layer. I should actually get a brush that doesn't have any variation in this. This brush has a little bit of variation. Okay, and I would come in and airbrush that, but I'm going to go back up to this line layer and I'm going to lock transparent pixels. And I'm starting to, let's do it with a lighter. I'm going to use a different color just so you can see it better. I can just paint right on that line. Oops, it went out. I can paint right over the line because everything else is locked. Does that make sense? So I can go in and paint the line a darker value of each thing and get that really rendered out line thing, okay? What's really nice about that is it's faster, okay? Because you're getting a very soft airbrush look, but you're still relying on the line, okay? But once you give the line a darker value of the color it's around, it softens it, okay? Because if you ever notice, black is very harsh, okay? It really gives it a wall there. And if I just do that, it gives you illusion of, and you got to remember, they're also airbrushing or, you know, giving that very soft render to the whole thing. And then that kind of carries it through. It's got a lot of solidity, but it's soft. Okay. Does that make sense? So we're just locking transparent pixels and that's all we're doing. So you can see right there, all I'm painting on is the line. See it?
Yeah.
It just went out. Oh, it's picking. The reason it's doing that is there's a solid there. So that's part of the line. Okay. If I go up here, it should just pick up. Yeah, it just picks up the line. So this is considered part of the line because it's black. Okay. So you just have to be careful there. But it's a nice technique. Okay. And I still have yet to figure out why all the cereal boxes are rendered that way. You know what I mean? It's bizarre to me. And it's such a weird, like herd thinky kind of thing, you know, because like somebody is going, because I mean, they're not using the same illustrator, I would assume, right? So they're going to whoever's, you know, their art department or whoever, their illustrator or whatever. And some marketing person's going, no, cereal boxes have to look like that. Period, end of story. You know what I mean? Which is kind of interesting. And it does work, I get it. But what's interesting is usually And they have, but stylistically things shift. And it's like, it seems like those things are sort of a constant. Okay. And you'll also notice, by the way, speaking to that point, you'll see everybody update logos at the same time. You know what I mean? I remember it happening in the 70s. All of a sudden, all the logos changed and they got much more, you know, contemporary looking. I noticed it at the time. I was like, wow, it's weird how they all do that at the same time. But it's otherwise you start, as soon as somebody updates their logo and we're moving into a new decade or whatever it is, then yours looks old. So now you got to go, well, we got to update ours. So it's kind of like you kind of have to, because otherwise you've got this old logo and everybody else has moved on. Look at the old Shell logo and then look at the Shell logo that happened probably somewhere in the early 80s or late 70s or something. It got very softer, you know, all that. Okay, any questions? Does this make sense? We just used a channel to do it. Okay, we're just using our channel layer to do it. And it's storing that information right there. And you notice you have to invert it for some reason. Okay, so you just go in and once you paste it in, you Command I and that'll invert it and then deselect it. And then you just go up and you load it right here. It'll be under out, whatever you name it. But the default is alpha and it'll be right here. Right. And then it's just going to go bink and it just drops in a very clean selection. I use this all the time for, I use it all the time. One time on a package thing, somebody found a copyright free, we're just doing a package thing. And they found this really interesting old, it was copyright free because it was something very old. And I go, that's perfect, man. It had all that great lettering in it and all that. And it was black and white, but we couldn't use it in the way it was, if that makes any sense. So then I did this with it, which put it on a clear layer and we could utilize it. Does that make sense? And the other way we really couldn't. And then I can take that into Illustrator and I can image trace it and then I can use it in 100 other ways. Okay. But anyway, that's how you do that. What I'd like on Monday, this is just an aside. I don't expect you guys to do this. And I do it all the time with these drawings. I can do it with, I don't care how complex a drawing is, I can do it with it. Does that make sense? And it really comes in handy with your own drawings too, because there might be certain things you want to do that you need to have the line isolated. Does that make sense? And by the way, one thing I do a lot with what I just showed you with my own drawings is sometimes I make that and then I fill it with a sepia line and I like the sepia line better, right? It started as a black line, but I'll convert it to a sepia line just because I like it better. Does that make sense? Casey?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up all those ink. They're already up. I just got to link them. I'm going to put up those ink drawings. If you want to use those, totally fine. If you want to find your own, totally fine. Don't find ones this big though. Like that's why those are nice. They're reasonably big. And I just want to see a color pass on it. Okay. Now, again, this doesn't have to be all painterly and all that stuff. The drawing is holding everything together, right? And we're going to start talking about color. Next week, we're going to take the same idea and we're going to do a much more complex scene. Okay. And then we'll take it into probably a grisaille thing. I have to look at my notes. And I think that's it. Okay. And then there'll be some tools in there that I'll show you relating to color. And we can probably get through all that next week easy. Does that make sense? So ink painting. Remember, put your ink drawing on multiply. Okay, so that just gets rid of the white and lock it. Do not work on the line drawing layer. That stays pristine. Okay, you're going to work underneath it with your initial pass. And then if you want to do anything like if I want to put specularity on a dark area in that image, I got to go above it. Otherwise the line layer, the line's going to, block it, right? It's not going to see it. Or if I want to put those embers going in front of the figure, I got to put that above it. Okay. Otherwise, again, the black will block it, right? So that you're making a sandwich basically, right? You got your image, your color underneath, and then your stuff that you're going to do on top of the thing, like embers and things that are going to go over the whole thing above it, right? And then usually you're making multiple layers and things based on what you're doing. Yeah. Lighting, I don't care that much. Kind of think about it a little bit, but I mean, again, I'm not grading this stuff on that. Does that make sense? I'm just grading it on use of tools, effort, all that stuff. Yeah. Okay, guys, I'll let you go. If you have any questions, hit me this weekend.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right, you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.